politics and Ivy got tales to share. Life in general, we go everywhere. From politics to soul repair. Tune in now, we got time to spare.
All right, so today we are going deep into Metropolis.
The 1927 silent film.
Yeah, Fritz Lang's masterpiece.
Absolutely.
And I am so excited for this one because, well, you know, we talk about a lot of movies and TV shows and things.
Right.
But this is a classic, and these video essays you sent me are incredible.
Yeah.
Really diving into the connection to Marxist theory.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like you were saying, even if you don't know a ton about Marxist theory,
Yeah.
this is a movie that can really help you understand those ideas.
I think so too, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's what makes it so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost 100 years old, this movie, and yet it's still
relevant.
so relevant.
Yeah.
So let's set the scene for our listeners who might not have seen Metropolis recently, or maybe they've never seen it before.
Right.
Paint the picture.
Yeah, so it's this futuristic city, right? But it's not just one city, it's two.
Right.
So you've got this gleaming metropolis above ground, all Art Deco, very stylish.
Yeah.
But then underneath it all is this dark industrial underbelly.
Yeah.
Where the workers are toiling away.
Yeah, it's a real contrast, like visually, right? Like you're seeing this opulence and then this like kind of almost like
a dungeon almost.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what makes it such a perfect visual representation of like classic Marxist ideas.
Oh, interesting. Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, you know, Marx talks about the bourgeoisie, the wealthy class who own the means of production.
Right.
And they're literally living this high life above ground.
Yeah.
While the proletariat, the working class, are kept in the dark, literally below.
It's so visually striking, right?
Yeah.
You think about how influential that imagery has been.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I was watching it, and I was like, oh, I see this in Blade Runner. I see this in like Beyonce's music videos. Like that whole aesthetic.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's wild. So Lang was really ahead of his time.
Yeah, and it's not just about the visuals. It's about how he uses the visuals to tell the story.
Yeah. Okay. So how so?
Well, think about the lighting.
Okay.
The workers are always in shadow. It's dark, it's grimy, and you almost can't even see their faces sometimes.
Right, yeah.
It's like they're being dehumanized.
That's a good point.
But then you look at the elite, they're bathed in light, everything is clean and bright, but even that's kind of cold and sterile in a way.
Yeah, you're right, like almost artificial.
Exactly. So even the way he uses light and shadow, it's telling you something about these two classes.
I never thought about it that way. That's really insightful.
It's all very deliberate.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk characters.
Right.
We've got Fritter, the son of the city's master.
Right, the privileged one.
Yeah. And he kind of stumbles into this whole other world, right? He's like totally oblivious at first to what's going on down in the worker city.
Yeah, he represents that kind of awakening, that realization that the system is rigged.
Yeah.
And then there's Maria.
Oh, yeah, Marie.
The spiritual leader of the workers.
And she is just like, she's radiating hope.
Hope and resilience.
Yeah, even though things are so bleak, she's like, you know, there's a better way.
Yeah, she's a powerful figure.
Yeah, and then, of course, you've got to have a villain, right? And we've got Rotwang.
Rotwang, the inventor.
And this is something that really struck me.
What's that?
He's missing his right hand.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, what is that about?
Well, it's not just a random detail. It's a motif you see a lot in cinema.
Like I was thinking Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars, Doctor Strangelove.
Oh, interesting.
That missing hand, it often symbolizes something about the character.
Like what?
A loss of humanity, a kind of moral decay.
Okay, so with Rotwang.
I think it foreshadows his descent into, you know, doing some pretty bad things.
Like a visual clue.
Yeah, like a little hint to the audience.
So even the smallest details in this movie are packed with meaning.
Exactly.
It's amazing. Now, I have to talk about this one scene.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
Where Freder has this hallucination.
Oh, the Moloch scene.
Yeah, it's so intense.
It's one of the most famous scenes in the film.
He sees this giant machine in the worker city.
Right, the heart machine.
Yeah. And it transforms into Moloch.
This ancient deity who demands sacrifice.
Yeah, and the workers are being fed into it. It's so disturbing.
And I think that's where the Marxist critique really hits home.
How so?
Remember we were talking about the means of production?
Yeah.
Well, here it is, literally consuming the workers.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Their labor is what keeps the machine running, but it's also destroying them.
So Lang is like visualizing that exploitation.
Exactly. He's not just talking about it, he's showing you.
And it's so powerful. I mean, that image just stays with you.
It's unforgettable.
And it's not just that, like even the way the workers are dressed, those dark, almost identical uniforms.
It dehumanizes them, makes them look like cogs in the machine.
Right. And then you've got Frater, even when he goes down to the worker city, he's still wearing those pristine white clothes.
It's such a stark contrast.
Yeah, like even visually, he's still separate from them.
His privilege is always visible.
It's so subtle, but so effective.
And even the camera work reinforces that.
Really?
Yeah, like they linger on Freder's suffering, even when it's just like a little discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
But the workers, their injuries and pain, it's shown from a distance.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like their suffering doesn't matter as much.
It's like the camera's taking sides.
It's telling you whose story is important in this society.
It's incredible how much thought went into every aspect of this film.
Lang was a master filmmaker.
He really was, but Metropolis isn't just about economics, right?
No, it's about something much bigger.
It's got all this biblical imagery, too.
Yeah, like the city's main tower.
Yeah, that's clearly the Tower of Babel.
A symbol of human hubris.
Right. And then there's Maria.
Yeah, she's compared to both the Virgin Mary and the Whore of Babylon.
That's so interesting. Why do you think Lang did that?
I think he's trying to show that the conflict isn't just about material things.
Okay.
It's about something deeper, a struggle for meaning and purpose.
Like, are we building a utopia or are we on the road to dystopia?
Exactly. That's the question Lang is asking.
And that's what makes this film so relevant. I mean, we're still asking those questions today.
Absolutely. It's a timeless story.
So, okay, tell me about the ending, because I know it's one that people have debated for years.
Well, on the surface, it seems optimistic.
Right. We see this handshake between Freder, his father, and the workers.
The head, the heart, and the hands coming together.
Yeah, it's like a moment of unity.
But if you look deeper, it's maybe not that simple.
How so?
Well, a handshake doesn't erase the systemic inequalities.
That's a good point.
So the film leaves you wondering, is this really a solution?
Or is it just a temporary fix?
Right, and that's what makes it so thought-provoking.
Yeah, even the ending is layered with that Marxist critique. It's forcing us to think critically.
It's not giving you easy answers.
And, speaking of not giving easy answers, Metropolis wasn't exactly a hit with everyone when it came out.
Oh, no, it was very controversial.
Yeah, I mean, the Nazis banned it,
For being too Marxist.
which, I mean, that's kind of a badge of honor in my book.
It shows you how powerful the film's message was.
Yeah, it challenged the status quo,
Yeah.
and that made people uncomfortable.
And that's why it's still relevant today.
Right, because we're still having those same conversations about power and control.
Absolutely.
And Metropolis isn't just influential in, like, a political sense.
Right.
It's had such a huge impact on art, music, fashion.
Oh, absolutely. It's iconic.
I mean, that robot Maria, those images are everywhere.
Yeah, music videos, fashion shoots, even contemporary art.
It's wild to think that a silent film from 1927 can still have such a hold on our imagination.
It's a testament to its power.
So, okay, before we get too carried away, I want to go back to the beginning
Okay,
and really break down some of the techniques Lang used to create this masterpiece.
sounds good.
Like his use of light and shadow, that's something that really struck me.
Yeah, it's so important in the film.
What do you think he was trying to achieve with that?
Well, like we were talking about before, the workers are always in darkness,
Mm-hmm.
literally in the underground city, but also metaphorically. It represents their lack of power, their invisibility,
Right.
while the elite are always bathed in light.
Yeah.
Their world is bright, opulent,
But even that light is kind of, I don't know, cold.
artificial,
Yeah, artificial, like, and not really warmth. It's more like a
spotlight.
Yeah, spotlight. Exactly.
So even the lighting is telling us something about these two worlds.
And then there's that scene in the Moloch machine room where the workers are all moving in sync with the machines.
Oh, yeah, it's chillin'.
It's like they've become machines themselves.
Yeah, and the camera work emphasizes that.
How so?
Those long, static shots, the repetitive movements, it creates this sense of dehumanization, like they're just cogs in the machine.
But how different that is from the scenes in the Eternal Gardens.
Right, where the elite are indulging in pleasure.
Yeah, we get sweeping camera movements, close-ups on their extravagant lifestyle. Everything is bathed in light. But it's a different kind of light than what we see in the worker city.
It's a light that highlights their freedom, their indulgence.
Yeah, and their disconnect from reality.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's that incredible transformation scene where the robot takes on Maria's appearance.
Oh, that's a classic.
It's such a visual spectacle, but what do you think Lang was trying to say with that scene?
I think it's about the blurring of lines between human and machine.
Okay.
The robot is emerging from this cauldron of machinery, and then it slowly morphs into Maria.
Right.
It's both captivating and unsettling.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, is she human or machine? What does it mean to be human in this technological world?
And then when the robot Maria dances in the Yoshiwara nightclub, it's like she's become this embodiment of temptation.
Yeah, leading the men astray.
It's both alluring and dangerous.
And I think that's a commentary on the dangers of technology.
Oh, so?
Well, it can be used to manipulate us, to exploit our desire.
Yeah, we see that in the
Thing
film.
uses flashing lights, frenetic camera work, those distorted perspectives
Yeah.
to amplify this sense of chaos and moral decay.
It's like a warning, isn't it? Be careful what you create. Technology can be a powerful force.
And we need to use it wisely.
Okay, so I have to ask you about this one symbol that keeps coming up.
Which one?
Rotwang's missing hand.
Ah, yes.
Such a small detail, but it feels so significant.
It is. It's a recurring motif in the film.
And in cinema history, like we talked about.
Exactly. And I think in Rotwang's case,
Yeah.
it represents his loss of humanity.
Oh, okay.
He's so focused on his creations, his machines,
Yeah.
that he's lost touch with his own humanity.
And that ultimately leads to his downfall.
Right. He creates this robot that ends up destroying the city.
It's like a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition.
And the importance of staying connected to our own humanity.
And speaking of destruction, we have to talk about that flood scene.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a powerful one.
So much water imagery in Metropolis.
Yeah. What do you make of it?
Well, on one hand, water is often a symbol of cleansing renewal.
Right.
But in this case, it's also destructive.
Yeah. It wipes out the worker city.
It's like nature's revenge.
Like a punishment for human arrogance.
And the way Lang films it, it's so chaotic, so overwhelming.
Yeah, you really feel the force of the water.
And amidst all that chaos, we see Freda and Maria trying to save the children.
They're the only ones who seem to care.
It's like they represent the best of humanity, the hope for the future.
Even in the face of disaster.
So, okay, we've talked about the ending, but I want to go back to it.
Sure.
Because I'm still not sure what to make of it.
It's definitely ambiguous.
Yeah, on one hand, you have this handshake, this symbol of unity.
Right. The head, the heart, and the hands coming together.
But on the other hand, the film doesn't really show us how they're going to solve these deep-seated problems.
Right. The systemic issues are still there.
So is this a happy ending, or is it just a temporary truce?
I think Lang is leaving that up to the audience to decide.
And that's what makes Metropolis such a great film. It's still relevant. It's still challenging us almost 100 years later.
It's a film that stays with you.
Absolutely. And I think there's so much more we could unpack, so many layers to explore.
Oh, yeah. We've only scratched the surface.
But I think that's a good place to pause for now.
Agreed.
And when we come back, we'll dive even deeper into the visual elements, the religious symbolism, all those little details that make this film so rich and complex.
I can't wait.
So stay tuned.
It's amazing how Metropolis layers these different meanings together.
Yeah, like we've got the Marxist critique, but then it also brings in these religious ideas.
And they kind of intertwine.
Right, like it's not just about economics, it's about something more like a spiritual element too.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes the film so complex.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, where do you see that happening?
Well, think about the scene where Maria is preaching to the workers in the catacombs.
Oh, yeah, down that underground space.
Yeah, it's almost like a secret church.
And she's surrounded by all those crosses and stuff.
Right, it's very symbolic.
So what do you think Lang is doing there?
Well, on one hand, Maria is clearly a religious figure, right?
Like a saint, almost.
She's urging the workers to have faith, to believe in a mediator who will bring them out of darkness.
Right, and that resonates with, like, Christian ideas.
Exactly, but at the same time,
Yeah.
her message is also very revolutionary.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, she's talking about a better future, a world without oppression.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
So it's like her message is speaking to both religious and revolutionary ideals.
It's like she's offering them hope, but hope for, like, a different kind of world, not just a heavenly afterlife.
Exactly, and that hope is really powerful.
And then we see that image of Maria as this pure spiritual figure, kind of contrasted with
the robot Maria.
yeah, when she's unveiled in that
The Yoshiwara nightclub.
yeah, the crazy nightclub. And they're comparing her to the whore of Babylon.
Right, leading men astray with her seductive dance.
It's like, whoa, what a shift.
Yeah, it's a pretty stark contrast.
So what do you think Lang is trying to say there?
I think he's playing with these opposing forces,
Okay, like what?
purity and temptation, hope and despair.
Right, like Maria represents the good, the pure.
But then the robot Maria is, she's kind of a perversion of that.
And it's all tied to technology, right?
Yeah.
Like the robot Maria is this creation of technology.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what makes her so unsettling.
Like she embodies those anxieties about technology, right?
Yeah.
Can it be used for good or will it corrupt us?
Exactly, and I think the film is saying it can be both.
Yeah, it's not a simple answer.
And that's what makes it so interesting, so relevant.
Okay, so we've talked about Maria and the robot Maria, but there's another element of manipulation going on in the film too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about how Joff Fredersen is using the robot Maria.
Yeah, to control the workers.
He's spreading disinformation, sowing discord among them.
Right, like to keep them from uniting against him.
Exactly. It's a classic tactic.
Divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm. And it's really effective.
And kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, because it reminds us that those in power often use manipulation to maintain control.
And it's not just in like some futuristic dystopia, right? This is happening in the real world too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about how information is controlled and manipulated today.
Through the media, social media, all that stuff.
It's everywhere, and I think Metropolis is a cautionary tale about that.
Like, be careful what you believe, question the narratives you're given.
Be a critical thinker.
And speaking of different perspectives, I think it's worth noting that Metropolis itself has had
different interpretations.
Yeah, different interpretations and reconstructions over the years.
Right. The original version of the film was heavily edited. Yeah. And some parts were even lost for a while.
Wow. So what we see today might not be exactly what Lang intended.
It's hard to say for sure.
So there are different versions out there.
Yeah, with different scores, restorations, even some scenes added or removed.
It's like the film has taken on a life of its own.
No way.
But the core themes, those are still there, right?
Oh, absolutely. The ideas about social justice, technology, human connection.
Those are timeless.
And that's why Metropolis continues to fascinate people.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture stuff, but I want to zoom in on some of the smaller details in the film.
Oh, yeah, the little things that you might miss on a first viewing.
Exactly. What are some of those hidden gems that you noticed?
Well, one thing that really stood out to me was the emphasis on clocks and timekeeping.
Oh, interesting. Where do you see that?
Mostly in the worker city.
Okay.
The workers' lives are completely controlled by time,
Right, they're working on those machines. Everything is very regimented.
Yeah, their movements are synchronized, their breaks are timed.
It's like they're slaves to the clock.
And then you have that massive clock in Joff Fredersen's office.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point.
It's like a symbol of his power,
Right.
his control over time itself.
So time is another tool of oppression in the film.
Right. Yeah.
And another motif I noticed was hands.
Hands.
Yeah, like Rotwang's missing hand.
Oh, right.
The workers' hands constantly toiling at the machines, Freda and Maria reaching out to each other.
That's interesting.
What do you think Lang is doing with that imagery?
Well, hands are pretty symbolic, right? They represent creation, labor, connection.
And violence, too.
Yeah, you see that in the film as well.
So maybe Lang is using hands to show us the different ways that power is expressed.
That's a good interpretation.
Like, the workers' hands build the city, but those hands are controlled by the machines.
And ultimately, it's through human touch, the connection of hands, that Freda and Maria try to bridge the divide.
Like, amidst all this technology and social upheaval, it's the human element that really matters.
And that's a message that resonates today, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Metropolis is almost 100 years old, but it feels so relevant to our world right now.
We're still grappling with the same issues, the gap between rich and poor, the rapid pace of technology.
And the potential for technology to be used for good or evil.
Exactly. It's like Lang had a crystal ball or something.
And that's what makes great science fiction so powerful, right? It's not just about predicting the future. It's about holding a mirror up to our present.
Making us think critically about the choices we're making.
And Metropolis definitely does that.
It's a film that stays with you long after you've seen it.
So before we wrap up, I want to talk about one more iconic element of the film.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
The robot Maria. I mean, she's such a fascinating character.
She's both alluring and terrifying.
And she really embodies those anxieties about technology that we've been talking about.
Okay, so let's unpack the layers of meaning behind this metallic femme fatale.
Yeah, let's dive into the heart of the machine and myth. Okay, so we left off talking about the robot Maria, and You know, she's such a visual icon from the film.
Oh, yeah, that image of her, it's instantly recognizable.
But she's more than just a pretty face, right? Like, she really gets at the heart of the film's anxieties about technology.
Absolutely. I mean, on the one hand, she's this incredible feat of engineering.
Yeah, like testament to what humans can create.
Right, but then she's also used as a tool of control.
Yeah, first by Rotwang, and then, of course, by Jaw Fredersen.
Exactly, to manipulate the workers, keep them divided.
It's like Lang is showing us that technology can be both amazing and dangerous.
A double-edged sword for sure.
Like that saying, technology is a tool, it's how we use it that matters.
But in Metropolis, it seems like it's mostly used to, like, divide people to maintain power imbalances.
Yeah, and the robot Maria, she kind of embodies that conflict, right?
Yeah, she's both alluring and threatening at the same time.
Okay, so let's talk about that transformation scene.
Oh, yeah, where they put the real Maria into the machine.
It's so cool visually, but also kind of creepy.
It's like we're watching Maria's humanity being sucked out of her.
Yeah, and replaced by this, like, cold metallic shell.
And that moment where the light shines through her hands.
Yeah, and you see the machinery underneath.
It's chilling.
It's like Lang is saying, look, this is what technology can do. It can dehumanize us.
Turn us into machines ourselves.
And then we see that play out even more in the Yoshiwara nightclub scene.
Oh, yeah. Where the robot Maria is dancing.
Driving all the men crazy.
It's such a powerful scene, both visually and thematically.
I know, like, on the one hand, it's seductive, alluring.
But there's also this undercurrent of danger, of destruction.
It's like she's become this embodiment of temptation.
Leading the men to their own downfall.
And I think that's a commentary on how easily we can get seduced by technology.
Yeah, how it can blind us to the consequences of our actions.
And those consequences are pretty dire in Metropolis, right? I mean, the robot Maria incites the workers to revolt, which leads to that whole flood.
Right, and it's the worker city that gets destroyed.
It's tragic.
And ironic, in a way.
How so?
Well, the workers destroy the very machines that, in a way, sustain their lives.
Oh, yeah, they're so angry, so desperate, they don't see the bigger picture.
It's like Lang is showing us the destructive power of technology when it's used for manipulation.
Okay, so I think this brings us back to that big question we've been circling around.
Yeah, what is Metropolis really trying to tell us?
About technology, about work, about power.
It's a complex film with a lot of layers.
But if you had to sum it up, what would you say is the main takeaway?
I think it's that technology itself isn't good or evil.
Okay.
It's a tool, and like any tool, it depends on how we use it.
And who's using it?
Exactly. The film is urging us to be mindful, to question who benefits from these technological advancements.
Right, like is it benefiting everyone or just a select few?
And that's where the Marxist critique comes in, right?
Yeah, Metropolis shows us how technology can be used to, like, entrench those class divisions.
Keep the powerful in power.
So it's not just about the machines themselves, it's about the systems behind them.
The social and economic forces that shape how technology is developed and used.
So it's like a call to action, in a way.
I think so, yeah. Like, don't just be a passive consumer of technology. Be aware of its impact.
Think critically about how it's being used, who it's serving.
And demand a more just and equitable distribution of its benefits.
Because if we don't, well, we might end up like Metropolis.
With a society on the brink of collapse.
And, you know, it's crazy to think that this film was made almost 100 years ago.
It's like Lang saw the future.
Yeah, all these things we're dealing with now, the income inequality, the rapid pace of technological change.
It's all there in Metropolis.
It's a cautionary tale that's become a reality.
And it begs the question, what are we going to do about it?
How do we create a future where technology works for everyone, not just the elite?
That's the challenge we face.
And I think Metropolis gives us some clues, some things to think about.
It shows us the dangers of complacency, of apathy.
But it also reminds us of the power of human connection.
Of empathy, of working together to create a better world.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up our deep dive into Metropolis.
It's been a fascinating journey.
I know, this film just, like, it gets under your skin.
It's thought-provoking, visually stunning, and still so relevant today.
I highly recommend everyone check it out.
You won't regret it.
So until next time, keep watching, keep thinking, and keep diving deep.
Alex and Ivy got tales to share. Life in general, we go everywhere. From politics to soul repair. Tune in now, we got time to spare.